Okay, episode 7.
Is that what this is?
Yes.
Episode 7?
What's
That was
up,
my
dude?
high school football number.
Is it really?
Yeah, I was the backup quarterback. I never played.
Chris
I was
played.
terrible.
You were terrible.
Terrible.
What position you said you were?
I was quarterback, yeah.
Wow.
So my mom wouldn't let me play my freshman, sophomore, and junior seasons because, I don't know, I was like a $140 in high
Okay.
school. And so I worked out really hard in the summer before my senior year, and I got to go out for the football team, and I sucked.
Which is so weird. And now you're playing.
Now I
in-
cover sports nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a baseball guy, though.
You were.
I wasn't a
baseball guy.
softball star like you are.
Oh, whatever. Okay,
Come
so
on,
let's tell everybody who you are.
Well, as simple as I can put it. Okay, so there's a lot of different me's.
There are.
There's
I googled you. Like, what in the world?
don't go too deep, but I'm Gwen and Emma's dad at around school. I got a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old now, and then whenever I go to see my son at college, I'm Plank's dad, which is very weird for me because everyone always called me Plank. So whenever I see him, be like Plank, and I'm looking around.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Senior.
Yeah.
You're the OG.
I'm the old guy now, but it's funny, you know. I feel like in what we like to do in radio, and I guess you can throw TV and anything, you know, this magical idea that you can just have one job and pay all your bills is insanity, and it just doesn't work that way. So, you know, you mix it all together, like you patch enough things together to where you can get by. So, for the longest time, I did sports radio here in Tulsa. And in 2011, I got an opportunity to start doing sidelines for the OU radio network. And when I took
All
that,
sports?
oh well, football. Sorry. So in 2011, I started doing sidelines for OU football, and then that just kind of blossomed into a lot of opportunities for Oklahoma. And we moved our family down to Norman in 2015, and pretty good timing, right?
Yeah.
When we moved down, I started doing play-by-play for Sooner softball.
Which is so cool.
Right. And so I started in 16 was my first year. And funny story, my mom, I think 16, yeah. My mom had planned to take all the kids to Disney World when softball was over. And this was my first year doing softball. So I was like, yeah, I just planned it in June. And so we were all planning to leave in June, and lo and behold, they're still playing in the World Series. So I'm like, I'll meet you guys down there. And then they kept winning. I'm like, okay, I got to move my flight. And they won the damn national championship the first year I did it. So I've been doing, and I did eventually get to go to Disney World. I got to go to Florida with the family, but missed out on a lot. My wife will make sure that I know about missing the road trip down that she had to take to fly. But no, it's been an awesome experience. And then when I got down there, and because we're taping here in Tulsa, but whenever I got down to Norman, I started doing a radio show on the Ref, which is a great radio station that's just grown infinitely.
Present day where
this was started in 16 because I made a promise to my family. It's like, I'm not going to get back in radio. I won't get back. I promise. And then boom, I'm there for like a year, and I'm like, hey, I got a radio show.
Yeah.
It's like, this is awesome. And so I started the Ref in 16, and it's still going 9 to noon every single day. And then
9 to noon?
9 to noon, yeah.
Okay.
And then so that you kind of platform that to where you keep trying to level up, and you got to keep going more. I've been doing a Sunday night show on Fox Sports Radio for, like 11, 12 years now. Yeah.
Baller.
Yeah. 10 to 1 a.m., 10p to 1 a.m. Prime slot, right? 10p to 1a, but it's great, and I have a great co-host. And then I've picked up a bunch of XM work. You know, Sirius XM started doing conference channels. They had the ACC network, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and then when the conference alignment changed, that ended up affecting my bottom line a little bit, which sucks.
It did?
Yeah, there's no Big 12 radio anymore, and
Okay,
Oklahoma's not in the Big 12, and it's been a fight to get on the SEC channel more. But it's been a blessing. You know, there's a station called Mad Dog, Channel 82, and somehow I've ended up backing into doing their morning show when they need to fill in.
Okay.
And it's just it's prime real estate in the radio world, so it's been really fun, man.
Man.
I left here, literally I couldn't afford a second car for my family. I mean, that's just the reality. We had one car and we would share it, and we made the decision, let's go, and it's really been a
Now how many cars can you
we have
afford?
8 cars now. No, I'm just kidding. We do have 2. Actually, we have 3 now because I have a 16-year-old. We have a 16-year-old, so I've got a driver. Oh my gosh. Two
Wow.
girls. I get humbled a lot. I have two
Yeah, I
girls.
bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we catch you on the sidelines for football anymore? Or
Sure.
are you okay? So
Yeah. In fact,
Saturday-
as we're taping this, I'm getting ready to go down to Dallas
I
tomorrow
was going
morning.
to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
OU Texas is this weekend, and let's do predictions. Even though this is going to
Oh,
air
okay.
on Tuesday.
That's fine.
okay.
So this is going to air on Tuesday after the game.
Yes, after the game.
Oh, wow. This is a good opportunity. All right. So let me think here. I think Oklahoma's going to win the football game.
Really?
I think Oklahoma's going to win the football game
Tell me why.
because on my show today, I had always said, hey, listen, it's a rivalry. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
You
Oh
can't,
yeah.
You can't go with
OU
that. though.
Texas is so unpredictable.
Anything can happen, but you can't go with that, right? You got to have more than that. So I would say of OU's, and funny, we just got done. In addition to all of the yobs that I just told you about, I do the we have a coach's show, and we talk to the assistants every single week. And we had Bill Beanbo on this week, and we were talking about he's the offensive line coach. He's been there for 12 years, and he was talking about the fact that they're finally healthy.
Yeah.
Now, they're not, well, let me rephrase that. They've got their 5 guys. They ain't healthy. They're battling. They're tough dudes. And I think, okay, number one, they got their 5 guys that they wanted to start the season with back on their offensive line, so that helps the running game. I think Michael Hawkins has a game under his belt, one on the road, the new quarterback. And I think they're going to be able to slow down Quinn Ewers and the Texas offense and force some turnovers. So either this is going to look brilliant whenever this drops on Tuesday, or you can just edit it out when all is said and done if Oklahoma loses. But it's fun, man. Have you ever been down there?
I've never been to OU Texas.
It's an experience.
Is it?
Yeah, it's one of the greatest. I can't even describe it. You know, people that are listening or watching that
But
have
you're
been.
there to work. Is
No,
it
that's
still-
the fun part about it.
Is
No,
it?
wait,
That's
hold
what
on.
I want to know.
That's the part that no one ever realized. You're like, dude, what's the fair like? What's this
Yeah.
like? I'm like, I don't know.
I want to know. Okay,
I have
Chris.
no idea.
Here's my question to you. What is game day like for you? Like OU Texas, how go through a day for me.
Okay. So this is different because it's a 2:30 start. But here's what it would typically be like. I'll just take my plan for Saturday.
Okay.
My plan for Saturday is to get up at 6:30-ish, right? I've got an 8 to 11 a.m. pregame show that I do on Sirius XM. So I'm going to get over to the State Fair of Texas. And when you pull into the parking lot, every single time you pull in, no one ever knows why you're there, which is hilarious. I'd be like, why are you here so early? I'm like, because there's a
Yeah.
football game. That's
Kind of
I'm-
big one.
And I'm all geared up in my
Yeah.
OU stuff. Like you can't figure out that I'm with Oklahoma. But so we go up there and we'll get to the Cotton Bowl. And I like to walk the field. I know that sounds weird. Whenever it was dark, when it was an 11 a.m. game, it's really cool. It's
yeah.
really cool because it's dark out and the Roughnecks are there and they do all their pregame stuff where they circle around the logo at midfield. But, yeah, I'll get there, and do my 8 to 11 show. And then we've added an hour to our pregame. So we do 11:30 on the radio network, on the OU Radio Network pregame show. So we'll start pretty much right after I finish my XM show. So I'll go from XM to the Sooner Radio Network. And then I'll go down to the field.
Yeah.
And it's an experience unlike anything you could ever experience. It's
You mentally prepare yourself like I feel like you would need to get
Yeah.
as an athlete, I would want to get game day ready.
Well, I mean, let me tell you something. I something happened last night that's never happened before, which is I didn't sleep, and that never happens. Now, part of it might have been the Dodgers actually
Yeah.
won a game, so that I might have been a little bit fired up about that. But I feel like I do a good job of trying to stay calm. I'm a crazy person, okay, and I've tried to maintain my calm leading up to the game. But when I get in my car on Friday and I start driving down, it's like you get giddy moments where you remember like games from the past, and then it's really cool whenever you wake up on Saturday morning because you're like, I'm going to the game, but I'm a nervous Nelly, so I'm not truly comfortable until I get there, and then I'm not truly comfortable until I get to the gates because there's 2 levels to the Cotton Bowl. You got to, well, actually 3. You got to get in the parking lot. Then you got to get to the fair gates, and then you got to get in the press box. So it's like boom, 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 and there's walks and there's people and there's crowds that are involved in it. So I get game day ready by being nervous until I'm actually there.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
how it works.
What's the coolest game? I mean, on the sidelines, give me a moment that
Last year was pretty cool.
win.
Last year, OU
Texas,
Texas.
yes.
They, and for me, a lot of those moments are the people that I'm around. Like being around Baker last year, whenever they won the game, was pretty awesome. But then also knowing that, so my move, it's kind of funny. My move to Norman coincided with Baker's first year as a starting quarterback, right? And then basically Lincoln Riley taking over as the offensive coordinator.
Oh my gosh,
so
man.
I moved down in 15. My first year at OU was 15. So that was Baker Mayfield's first year as a starting quarterback. And then it was also Lincoln Riley's first year as the offensive coordinator. So because Josh and a couple had been fired in 14, and then everyone came in and took over in 15. And everything that I try to figure out and when it happened in life is based on who the OU quarterback was. So 15, 16, 17 was Baker. 18 was Kyler. 19 was Jalen Hurts. And then 20 was Spencer. 21 was Spencer and Caleb. And now, we are where we are with them.
How fun, though. I'm thinking as a radio personality, like all that content.
Yeah.
For the air. I mean, you always had something
to
talk about.
Always. And it's wild because so much of the fun happens around the game.
Yeah.
And just seeing these guys in different elements. I'll give you a great story. One of my favorite stories is when it had nothing to do with being on the sidelines. We went to Manhattan in either 14 or 15, and the plane didn't go. We got out on the plane. Everyone's on the plane, and it wouldn't go. And so they sent us back, and everyone kind of was waiting in the you don't leave from an actual terminal. They have a little kind of private airport area in Oklahoma City. And I'll just never forget being around the team and seeing them handle that moment and being stuck there until midnight. And they played at 11 a.m.
Oh, my gosh.
And they kicked the absolute crap out of Kansas State the next morning.
Yeah.
And it was wild because they hadn't played real well. I think they might have lost the week before. So moments like that, like those travel stories where you see these, now you think about that team in 15, a lot of NFL guys on that team. You see them play now, and now you realize, oh, okay, they're in their element.
Yeah.
You saw them in their real element. It's cool.
Okay. Ohio State, Baker Mayfield, were you there when he planted the flag?
17, yeah.
Were you just watching that?
No. Okay. Funny story.
Yeah.
Teddy Lehman.
Okay.
Oh, you're great. And
He's on the radio with
Right.
you.
Right.
Yes.
At that point, he wasn't in the booth yet. We were doing sidelines together, and we were doing something different that game. I'm letting you all in on a little secret. I don't know where the camera is. I'm looking at the wrong place, but right there. Okay. I'm letting you in on a secret, so don't tell anyone. But that night, we had to get on the plane quick after the game.
Okay.
The game was over.
Yeah.
Like, you got to get. So we had pre-taped portions of our post-game show. So not like before the game was over.
No,
but where
that's
we
normal.
went down to the locker room, and Ted and I would tape a couple segments. Well, we got done with our second segment, and Ted looks at me and goes, I think Baker just did something crazy. I'm like, what? He goes, I think he just tried to plant a flag. So, I mean, in any normal situation, I would have been right there. I would have seen it all, and I probably would have been the guy going, boom, like yelling with him.
Oh, so
but we were back in the tunnel waiting to interview Baker and everyone. But that's one of my all-time favorite moments because it was a place we'd never been before.
Right.
And no one thought Oklahoma was going to win.
Yes.
No one did. They were a big underdog, and they did. But I could sit here and talk about Baker however long. And here's the great thing about a guy like Baker Mayfield is I would say everyone that covered him or was around him, if he were to walk in here today, he'd be like, hey, what's going on?
He seems like he's a guy's guy.
Dude, totally. Friend. Great dad already, man. And he always was giving back, so that was cool. And you get such different personalities, right? Kyler was hilarious, but Kyler was hilarious in his own way.
Yeah.
He wasn't like Baker where it was outwardly, but, we were playing Texas Tech one night, and someone kept throwing a football at me. And I was trying to ignore it because I didn't want to. I thought it might have been a fan. And I looked over, and it was Kyler Murray. He just kept. Well, he was warming up. He was just throwing a football at me. I'm like, "What are you doing, dude?" And he was just shaking his head because I guess he caught me not paying attention. But it was just those. They're all so.
Yeah. Who's your favorite?
Baker.
Baker, yeah.
Right, but listen.
He can dance.
Yeah, he can move. But you got to remember now, I got to be careful because when you say who's your favorite, I got to look at softball.
Yeah,
right?
I know. We're going to talk softball.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. I'm just saying, I got to make sure I keep the softball peeps where they are. But and that's number one. But Baker was great. Orlando Brown Jr., who's now an offensive lineman with the Bengals, was great. Joe Mixon, Joe had a tough time at Oklahoma, but he was always great to me. I remember seeing Joe at an airport, and we sat there and talked for 20 minutes. Just
Yeah.
he had some things that didn't go his way early in his career, but look, he's having a great season with the Texans and was a great Bengal. Mark Andrews, the very first interview we ever did with Mark Andrews. Here's this Mark Andrews tied up for the Ravens now. We're interviewing him, and Baker comes walking in the middle of the interview. He goes, "March, tell him about your girlfriend." It's just that's the personalities that were on that team.
I love that. Do
It
you
was
have a
really
ring?
cool.
We
Yeah,
got- okay. Well,
I should have brought him. I'm sorry.
I know. Yeah. So let's tell them about softball. You
Yeah,
are
go ahead.
the voice of the Oklahoma
Since
Sooner.
2016, yeah.
Yes. And what's that? I mean, was that a hard pivot for you from going
Yeah.
from? Was it?
Yeah, no, I'll just, Coach Gasso and I have talked about this before too. I had never traveled with a women's team. I'd always traveled with
yeah.
guys because whenever I went down in 2011, or I'm sorry, whenever I started doing football in 2011, Toby Rowland, who's the legendary now voice of the Sooners,
When
we
I
started
did my very first internship with Oklahoma Sports Blitz was with
Toby? Chad McKee?
Rowland, and what's the other guy?
Was it Chad?
No,
Dino?
Dean Blevins.
Oh, the Dream.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Dream.
Dean the Dream. But so Toby's the play-by-play guy, and he can't do all the baseball games.
Yeah.
Because basketball's going
Right.
on. So in 2011, I got to travel with baseball. It was awesome, man. It was dudes
You love
being dudes,
baseball.
right? And I grew up playing baseball, and I thought
Yeah.
I was good at it until I saw these guys playing. I'm like, I'm not very good at baseball. So so it was a whole different experience because, again, it's girls,
Yeah.
and I mean, you act differently. You want to be on your best behavior. You're watching your language, and
Yeah.
it was such a 180 pivot. And I'll tell you this much, as a father of two girls, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Really?
Yeah, because
You understood him more, I bet.
I understood him a little bit more. It taught me a whole new level of respect.
Okay.
And it was a real eye opener for me in understanding the right way to, I don't want to get too corny with, but to live, it's like, this is pretty awesome what Coach Gasso has going on. And I got real lucky because Coach Gasso embraced me right away. Someone had given me the advice. It's like, hey, in your first year, when you go on the road, just be a wallflower. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Just
Stay in your lane.
no news. And I'm always a no news is a good news guy, right? No news is good news. And whenever we had the very first time when we got off the bus, we're in Las Vegas for a tournament, and Coach Gasso goes, "Oh, by the way, it's Chris Plank. Chris Wright. He's your radio guy, so he's going to be around, just so you know." I was like, I'm supposed to be a wallflower. What's going on here? And so it worked out really well. She's been great for me and for my family and honestly, for my confidence.
So you're a part of that team.
I feel like it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't do anything except I call myself the Disneyland dad of sports at Oklahoma. To where, listen, I'm a divorced father, so I can say that. But it's where I get to swoop in and do all the fun stuff. It's like, hey, I'm here to travel. I'm here for dinner. I'm here for game day. Let's go. Meanwhile, they practice and they grind. They put together, schedules. Jackie Livingston is the director of ops for OU softball, and she's amazing. She grew up in Bristow too. She was a Purple Pirate, and I think about how hard she grinds, and then all of a sudden here I come showing. It's like, hey, my room ready? Can we do this? You guys, it's just I get to have the most fun of anyone because, my work is studying, prep, things of that nature. But it's truly I get to show up on game day and call the greatest team.
That direction, because I was wondering about the sports being
Yeah.
hard to pivot from, and you went like the direction of, which I love.
Well,
They're teaching you things.
they're
Chris.
teaching me things. Yeah, it's changed my life, and it's opened up more doors. I was laying out the things that I am doing, and one of the things that has been added to the list is I call the Women's World Series for OU, right?
All of it?
Well, for OU, all the OU games.
Okay.
And then 3 years ago, Westwood One started doing every game, and they hired me to do the games that Oklahoma wasn't playing in. So that's been incredible.
So are you on? So can we hear you on the TV, or is it?
Sometimes I'm mostly radio.
Because my mom listens to you.
Oh, she's smart.
Like if you can't catch the games on TV, she's
Right.
listening to you. On
Well,
TV.
and here's the thing: is they didn't do every game radio when I took over. Like I was the first person and that's not me trying to brag or anything. I'm just saying we travel to every game. And softball's travel schedule is wild because it's the whole month of February. They're gone, and but we travel to every game. And unfortunately, it's still a sport that doesn't have the national TV coverage that it deserves. So it became like family with the listeners, right? We have third inning shout outs and people let us know where they're listening from. And you'll have people coming to your game.
Shout out to my mom. Her name's Debbie.
Debbie, thanks for listening. You're awesome.
And my stepdad, Larry.
Natalie sent me a message one time, and when she walked into her mom's house, I was
like,
calling
you're
the
on
game.
my mom's.
So I want to do more TV, but then there's also this part of me that whenever I'm not doing radio, it's like, it's my kid.
Yeah.
Those are my people. So it's been a really cool experience, man. It helps that they're good.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask
Yeah.
you. Like,
helps that they're really good.
4 national championships in a row.
4 in a row and 6 total in 8 years. That's just unreal.
Being a part of that, what's that? I
The
won
whole-
state and softball in high school.
It's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal.
Okay, go Rams.
Well, so Rams, baby.
Yes, but man.
Here's the best way that I can probably try to describe it, and I think maybe fans would feel the same way, is you invest yourself because they're so likable, right?
Yeah.
They're so likable. And you go to these games, and now they're playing in close to a 5,000-seat stadium. But Marita Hines Field was like maybe 2,000. And then if you travel and you go on the road, you're playing in places where there's maybe 500 seats. So you'll be around the parents and you get to know their families, and you're completely and totally invested. So the best way I can put it is when you're watching Suter softball, and what it feels like, you feel like you're watching one of the members of your family,
right?
Because you're so close to them and because you're so invested in them. And that's how I feel, man. I feel like I'm out there watching family, and they let you be a part of it.
Here's what I want to ask you about: is the stadium. I've been to the stadium.
You did?
Okay, if you're watching, of course you're watching this. Since you're watching this, you guys need to go to an OU softball game.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like a mini version of the football game, and the parking isn't bad.
No, because you can park in Lloyd Noble Center.
You do all
Ingress
the things
and egress,
like
easy.
you do at a football game. You're like, oh. Like,
it was, and it was kind of tough this year because construction was still going on while the season was going on. And I felt, I won't start naming all the names, but the Jada, Colemans, and T.R.A. Jennings, they didn't get to spend the full year in that stadium. They got to play there, right? They'd play their home games there, but they would bust down to Marita Hines Field, and that's where their locker room was. So a couple weeks ago, T.R.A. and I did a video, kind of like do kids still remember Cribs? Did you watch Cribs?
Yeah.
Okay. So we did like a Cribs taking you through Love's Field, and it was kind of funny because the photographer's like, well, which one of these was your locker? And I kind of laughed and I looked at it like, yeah, which one, TR? Because you had it for 2 weeks, right? But it was important to the faculty and everyone, the administration, to let them play there, and it was awesome. You saw it. The fans are crazy.
It is incredible.
It took some. Now they lost a few games at home last year.
Was that when they lost?
Yeah.
Was at that state. Okay.
Yeah. They lost OSU twice. Got beat by BYU and Louisiana last year. But it was a learning process, right? Because it's a whole different
season
field.
look?
Good. They're young. It's young. It's wild. We've been doing the fall ball games. Fall ball is basically where you play.
Yeah.
Sometimes you play 12 innings. Just, hey, we're getting practice in. But OU it's called the Battle Series, so they take on each other. And they have 7 on one team and 7 on the other, and there'll be people fill in, and the pitchers pitch for both teams. But they've got 8 freshmen, 8 new freshmen, and I think about 4 of them might play a lot. And they've got 5 new players in the transfer portal.
Really?
I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. So
who's the pitcher this coming year?
There's a couple of them. Sam Landry is a
Okay.
transfer in from Louisiana.
Okay.
She looks really good. She was really good last night. Kirsten Deal is back. She's really the only returning multiple inning pitcher that they had. Peyton Monticelli's back. She looks a lot better this year. She had a rough outing last night. They got a girl named Bella Smith. She hasn't played yet in the fall. She transferred in from Campbell. She's very impressive. They got a freshman, Lowry. Now her first name is completely escaping me, and we had a Lowry here a couple of years, so I'll probably call her Paige Lowry. But they've invested a lot now in bringing in pitchers out of the portal, young pitchers, and you lose Kelly Maxwell, you lose Nicole May.
Coleman.
Carly Keeney. And then if you look on the field, you lose Jada Coleman. I mean, you think about it. OU in 2025, because I got to think of it this way, because the season will start in 25, we'll have a different starting third baseman, shortstop, second baseman, catcher,
Oh my gosh.
left fielder, and center fielder.
That's a whole new team.
Exactly. And they have it on the roster where it's like 8 returning players. But think about it this way. So of those 8, one got injured and didn't play the entire year. Another got injured after a couple of games. So that's 6 returning players. The other one, it didn't pitch all that much. So you really only have 4 to 5 returning players.
Who's the
on
girl
this
from
team.
Owasso? Riley.
Riley Boone graduated, yeah.
Do her name. Riley.
Riley Boone. You need to get her on. You'd love her. She is.
Really? That's a good one. I didn't
She's
think of that.
she's a trip, man.
What is she doing now?
It's a good looking question. She's
Okay.
being a rock star. Her Riley Boone, great
You love
story.
her?
I love her. I love her and her family. Her mom Gayla was a Hall of Fame basketball player at Pawhuska.
Really?
Yeah, Hall of Fame
Where?
at Pawhuska. She was the original pioneer woman. Her brother Trevor is currently in AAA.
Really?
So it's
athletic family.
athletic
Yeah.
family. There's stories like that.
What a
And so
stud.
so for me, that kind of just lends to it. That's what made this so cool. I got to know their family.
Yeah.
You know, I go back to my first year, and I don't know if you remember Sydney Romero. Sydney was the third baseman. She wore number 2. Her sister Sierra was one of the greatest ever play at Michigan. She's got a younger sister that is playing at Boise State. Her brother got drafted by the Red Sox. I mean,
You know him.
right? Now
Her social security number
was
is
446. Yeah, and then you hurt too with them because Sid lost her dad, who battled cancer
yeah.
for about 3 or 4 years, Big Mike, and you just hurt for everyone. You know,
Who's your favorite?
He was pretty awesome, man. Big Mike always scared me because
Yeah.
he was an intense dude. But if you were to say, okay, let's go favorites in softball.
Yeah, your favorite player.
All right, well, I'll just go.
Of
Well,
all.
Sid
Okay.
and Kaylee Clifton, pretty high. Kaylee Clifton was from Wayne, Oklahoma, and that was my daughter. Wayne. And if you're
never
driving,
heard of that.
if you're driving up 35, okay, you're coming from Dallas. The exit is the Wayne Payne exit. It's
Okay.
Wayne
Wayne
Payne.
Payne.
Yeah, that's And actually, it's right before I think you go to the exit of my house. It's kind of wild because we're on the Ladd Road exit. But I love those two. My daughter started trying to play softball whenever when it didn't go well, but she.
She had your experience with football.
Unfortunately, yeah, she was at softball like I was at football. But and Kaylee was her favorite player, and Kaylee embraced
Oh
it.
yeah. The
I
players that embrace your kids are the ones.
number one,
Yeah.
Jocelyn Allo. Jocelyn,
Oh, you love her.
love her to this day.
She's with the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah, she did that for a couple games.
Okay, she's not. That's not like a full.
Well, they'd be smart if they did it,
Yeah.
man. So, I think Jocelyn is always going to be this different level of just
She was a stud.
not just with how she played on the field, but I got to go with them when they went to Hawaii when she broke the record. She broke the all-time home run record in
yeah.
Hawaii, and
Yeah.
we got to go back to her hometown,
Okay.
and I got to break bread with her dad and her family, and it was just
Good people.
amazing. It was
Yeah.
amazing, right? And you're in the middle of just paradise. You're in Hawaii, and it was really cool to hear her tell the story. Like we all went for fun, and she told this story. So I'm not like sharing any secrets, but we went for fun to go hike up a mountain. She goes, "That's not fun because that's where my dad would make me run all the time." She goes, "That's not fun to me.
Yeah.
You guys are going, and you're thinking this
That's
is fun. I used to
trauma for
run
her."
all the time."
Yeah.
But she was awesome. I mean this whole crew that just graduated is, Jada Coleman. Jada was great because I would always see her at both the softball and the football games.
Okay. Oh, because her boyfriend.
Because Billy, her fiance now, Billy Bowman.
Yes.
And last year, I'm interviewing Billy on the field, and then all of a sudden you hear this screaming out of nowhere, and here comes Jada Coleman to celebrate. It was great. There might not be a more like loving family than the Jennings.
Really?
Tiare, her dad, Nacio, and Maria, her mom. They're phenomenal. They're phenomenal, and it's just they support everything about them, and so you get lumped into that. Even if you maybe say, "Oh, they had a bad game," they're like,
Right.
"Yeah, they're right. They had a bad game. They got to be better." So it was. I could do that. I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but I could do this list all day. I I loved covering that team for the last 4 years.
Oh,
They're
I
really
bet.
special.
I
Kinsey
bet.
Hansen, Kinsey's mom.
Oh yeah, she was catcher.
And her brother's catching at OU for baseball now. But what's funny is her mom was at a football game with her, and they were walking around the sidelines. And her dad is just incredibly great shape, dude, right? I mean, and her mom looks very young. And whenever Kinsey was on the sideline with her, and I'm Chris, I'm the radio guy. Are you a recruit? And she looked at me and she goes, Chris, I'm her mom. I'm like, oh my gosh. And Kinsey was like, that's my mom. So I just, little stories like that. I felt terrible. I was busy that day. I was running all over the place. My mind was a sieve.
Yeah, well, Chris, you've been great.
I know. I'm sorry. I've taken up all your time here.
No, this is what it's all about. So OU Texas coming up Saturday.
Yeah, Oklahoma's going to win.
This is airing later.
If you haven't got a chance, go do it.
Okay, what?
No, OU Texas. Just go experience it all. Go to the Texas State Fair.
Okay, go to the game.
And I'll say this. You mentioned softball.
Yes.
So sales pitch, real quick
Sales
before I go.
pitch.
Fall ball is going on right now.
Yeah, talk about it.
It's
Talk
the
about it.
least. It's the best price ticket. All right, and it's not sold out.
Okay.
So you can go and I'm not going to say sit wherever you want, but you got room. You see everybody play. Is it at
Lowe's Field?
It's in Loves Field.
Or Loves Field?
Yeah. It's at Loves Field. And so I'm just saying, if you're a softball fan that caught this, and you're like, I want to go whenever it's not crazy. Fall ball is it.
Okay.
SoonerSports.com has a schedule. They play. This drops on Tuesday.
Yes.
They play tomorrow night. But that's on the road, Texas
Okay.
A&M Commerce, and they're back home this weekend. So fall ball is a hidden
I'm sure
gem.
if you Google Oklahoma Sooners.
Google it up.
Google it up.
Go to SoonerSports.com.
And Google Chris Plank because you'll
Don't
be
do
like,
that.
this guy's everywhere.
Thanks, Nat.
Thanks for hanging out with me.
Appreciate you.
Go Sooners.
Boomer Sooner, baby.
Yeah.